Today, we're going to be building your first AI agent using N8N. Now, this is one of the more complex automation tools that I've ever used, but that's a good thing because the customization that it offers is limitless and allows you to become a true power user. So if you've never built an AI agent before, hopefully this video is going to give you everything you need to get more comfortable with the platform, showing you a few of the hurdles that you might encounter and how to overcome them, and how you can build a full automated AI workflow from scratch. So with that being said, let's jump right into building your first automated agent using N8N. All right, let's get started building our first automation in N8N. Now this is what the dashboard looks like here, and there's a few things to go over if you've used other AI automation tools that makes N8N a little bit different and works a little bit different than how you would typically expect it to. So the first thing we're going to do here is actually go ahead and create our first workflow. We could go ahead and look at the admin panel, the templates, the variables and insights, etc. But I just want to get you comfortable with the user interface because it looks a little bit different than some of the more linear automation tools that I've reviewed in the past. So we're going to just simply start from scratch. Now, once we start from scratch, we're going to be taken into the editor, which works very similar to a whiteboard in that we can just kind of move around as needed here. What we're going to do here is add our first step. And what's going to happen is once we hit the add first step button, we're going to see what triggers this workflow. And there's a variety of options here. We have trigger manually, where you click a button and it runs an on-app event, on a schedule, on a webhook call, form submission, when executed by another workflow, on chat message, when running evaluations, and other ways. This is basically going to be what kicks off your whole automation here. Now, let's say, for example, that I want to get some sort of information delivered to me once per day at a specific time. Well, in that case, I would click on a schedule here. And now we can actually get our schedule trigger added. And we can see, we can choose between days, hours, seconds, minutes, weeks, months, and we're just going to do day. So we're going to say every day at, instead of midnight, we'll do 7 a.m. local time and 7 a.m. in 0 minutes. And we'll hit, add rule if that we need to add any more rules here. And you can see that would add a second rule here. We don't really need that, so we're just going to keep this one. And we're going to go ahead and hit the execute step button. If we want to, we can also go to the settings here and add any notes and display the note. We can say auto run at this time, for instance, and we can display that note in Flow. And then all we do is hit execute step. And now we're going to see here that we get our timestamp, our readable date, and our readable time, and the date of the week as well. So as we can see here, we have our timestamp automatically put in here. I'm just going to have it blurred out, for instance, because I do not want to dox my time zone and my readable date. Okay, great. Now we've got our output for our time, and we can see that in both table view or schema view or JSON view, but in our case, we're pretty good here. So closing out of that, we can see that I'm now back in the workflow. And if I want to navigate around, all I have to do is hold space and I can just drag around. And we can see here that the schedule trigger will run at this time. I could also hit this execute workflow button to automatically test it. Now we can add our next thing on here. Now, N8N works on a basis of if and else. It's very programmatic. So what we can have next here is either an AI, an action in an app, data transformation, flow, core, human in the loop to actually go ahead and approve, or another trigger here. Now, we're going to actually make a condition check to make sure if something happens, then do this, or if something else happens, then do this. So we're going to say, in this case, flow, and we're going to say if route items to different branches or loop over items merge, and we have different ways of actually flowing this. And we're going to just simply say if the day, in this case, value 1, and we can choose the actual date. We can say day of the week. If the day of the week is equal to Wednesday, so we can have it run every day at a specific time. But if the day of the week is a Wednesday, do something else. And so we can go ahead and have that condition added there, and we'll say execute step, and we can see that it says node executed successfully. We're going to go ahead and click out of this. And so now we can see it's going to run every day at that specific time. We're going to say if the day is Wednesday, do this. And if the day is not Wednesday, do this. So now we're starting to split off into 2 different sections. And the way this works is you're essentially building a big spider web of all of the conditions that you want, whether it is interacting with an AI agent, whether it is just scraping data from the internet. The conditions in which you cause the actual flow to run will be determined by your ifs or your branches or your merges, etc. So let's say, for example, that it's true that today is a Wednesday. Well, now we're going to go ahead and build our first automated AI agent. We're going to click on AI nodes here, and we can see here that we have templates available to us. We have AI agents, Anthropic, Google Gemini, OpenAI, a basic LLM chain, information extractor, and more here. But in our case, we're just going to say AI agent. And now this is where things get fun. This is where people get a little bit dissuaded when they see exactly how complex it is and they see a bunch of dollar signs and curly braces and things like that, and they're like, it's too crazy. It's really not that difficult. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to say, what is the source for the prompt? And we can say connected chat trigger node, or we can actually just define it below. And this is the prompt that we're sending to our agent. And we can say pull all data related to, let's say, for example, NVIDIA stock. Let's do that for instance. And then we can also say require specific output format. Now, this specifically if you're building something dev related. Let's say, for example, that you need the data to be returned in a way that is consistent on every single run. Well, we would enable that here. If we disable that, it's going to be different each run. But if we enable that, we can say, connect an output parser and basically take the information that the AI agent gives us and put it into a format that is consistent each time. We don't need to do that here. We can also, if we need to, enable a fallback model, which is basically what'll happen if the model that we're working with fails. So let's say, for example, we're using ChatGPT or the OpenAI GPT 4.5 or GPT 4o or o3, any of those, and they fail for whatever reason. We run it and whether, we're out of credits or whatever, we need to have a fallback model to make sure that it runs properly. Well, we could connect Google Gemini, for instance, if the o3 ChatGPT model fails. In this case, we don't need to do that again. And then we have our options here. We can add options like system messages, max iterations, any immediate steps that need to be returned, automatically passing through binary images. You don't have to worry about that, and batch processing. Now, in our case, we don't need to worry about any of those things, but if you know exactly what you're building, this would make more sense to you. So let's say, for instance, we've got pull all data related to NVIDIA stock, and we can say execute this node to view data or set mock data. And we'll go to our settings here and we can say execute once. And if active, the node only executes once with data from the first time it receives, and retry on fail. We're going to disable that. And what happens when it has an error? Because if the AI agent stops working for whatever reason here, do we want it to stop the workflow entirely? Do we want it to continue the workflow? Or do we want it to continue, but continue understanding that, yes, it did fail, so we need to do something else entirely? It may seem complex, but it's actually a very simple way of understanding how exactly you're building an AI agent. You ask the AI agent to do something, it does it. What happens if that AI agent isn't available? Do you have a backup? What happens to the rest of your flow and the rest of your steps if that isn't available or it fails? Do you have backups for those? It's all about making sure that you can have a consistent AI automation that works even in the event of failures. So in our case here, we're going to simply hit the execute step button, and there we can see that there's a problem. We do not have a chat model subnode connected and enabled. It's basically saying, hey, you haven't actually connected an AI agent here. So we can see that a chat model subnode must be connected. So we can go ahead and hit this Ask Assistant button here. And this is great if you're not too familiar with N8N or you haven't read the docs and you need a little bit more help, because it will actually guide you through the steps. So if you encounter errors like these. So as we can see here, this is how we can fix that. And all we have to do is double click on your AI agent node to open its configuration. At the bottom of the node configuration, look for the subnode section, click on add subnode and select a chat model. For example, OpenAI chat model. Configure the chat model and make sure the subnode is enabled and the toggle should be on. Now that sounds crazy complicated, but if we hit back to canvas here, we can see that there are a few things we actually have not connected. We haven't connected a chat model, we haven't connected memory, and we haven't connected a tool here. So if we select chat model here, we can see that we can use this node to select one of the connected models based on the workflow data. So we can have it automatically choose what model it's going to use based on the data. Maybe we want to only use Claude, for example, if we're working with numbers and accounting. Maybe if we want text, we want it specifically from Gemini or specifically from OpenAI. That's entirely up to us. There is so much customization here that allows us to build and customize our AI agent that it really is fully up to you what exactly you want it to do. In our case, we could just choose something like, OpenAI here at the bottom, or, XAI Grok, and we're going to say OpenAI chat model. And so once we hit that, it'll say credential to connect with, create new credential. And then all we have to do is go and grab our API key from OpenAI. That is because we're going to be actually charged our credits based on OpenAI, and put that in here so it knows that it's using that. Now, don't worry if you don't understand how that process works yet or want to try before you buy, because they actually give you 100 free credits for most of these models just to try them out. So in our case here, we now have our free OpenAI API credits, and the models we have available are GPT 4.1 mini, DALL-E 3, Nano, TTS, Whisper, etc. So in our case, we're just going to do GPT 4o mini here, and we can add any options that we want, such as timeouts, response formats, etc. But I think for the most part, that's good here. So we're going to go back to our canvas, and now we can see Then under our AI agent, we have our model set up as the OpenAI chat model. Now, what comes next? Well, actually providing the memory. What context is our AI agent pulling from? Do we want it to be able to look through our database and pull all the information about a specific topic to be able to provide context on that or responses based on that context? Do we want it to just have a couple PDF documents that say everything that it needs to know? That, again, is entirely up to you. Memory allows an AI model to remember and reference past interactions with it. So we can either have simple memory, where it stores all the conversations that you have with it thus far just in memory. We could store it in a database, Redis, Zep, or whatever. And in our case, we're just going to simply say simple memory. And we can see here that the context window length is 5. And we could just leave all these as defaults or add any notes if we want. But I think in our case, we're pretty good. So now we've got our model. We've got our simple memory for storing the conversations that we had with it. So finally, the last thing we have to add here is a tool. Now, as we can see here, there are tons of tools we can add here. We could have the Strava tool. We could have the Twilio tool. These are basically all the other APIs that we can work with. Let's say, for example, that we want our AI agent to pull our YouTube analytics every day at 7 a.m., for example. We could say YouTube tool and connect it automatically. Connect the credentials, get many for the channels here, or get a single channel, get the channel ID, get the data. Pretty much we're just giving it all the information, like I said, from either a PDF guide or really could be anything here, either an API or just our data. But let's say, for example, we get a channel on YouTube, or if you want it to be a little bit simpler, we could also just call the N8N workflow tool, which uses another workflow as the tool. So we could actually power our AI agent in an N8N workflow with another N8N workflow. It's kind of complex, and the way it stacks on top of each other can be a bit daunting for beginners, but once you get comfortable with the interface, it's actually really easy to understand. This is what I'm using to power the AI agent. This is where it's storing all of the responses, and the tool is what context am I giving it to operate as efficiently as possible. So in our case, we're just going to simply select something like Gmail, for instance. We get our Gmails or anything really. So at this point, you've pretty much got your AI agent set up correctly. But how do we build a truly smart workflow? Yes, we have it so that it runs at a particular time. And if that date is a Wednesday, then we run the AI agent with the specific instructions here. But there is so much more that you could do with N8N because it's not just about having one agent. It's about having multiple agents that work at the same time. AI agents stacking on top of each other is really what makes creating AI agent workflows so powerful. It's not just about having one, it's about having a bunch. So let's say, for example, that we schedule this trigger to run, and if that day is a Wednesday, then have an AI agent get all of my emails in Google here and create a list of everything that everyone has messaged me so that I can get an efficient task list for the day. For instance, we go to the operation here and say get many and return all of our Gmails, and we could say simplify here, connect our Gmail credentials and have our tool description be set automatically, or manually set our description here. And then we add any filters, including spam and trash, or red status if you only want to get unread emails. And then we could go ahead and have another AI agent here go ahead and translate all that information. So let's say, for instance, I want this new agent to look through all of the Gmails that other agent just pulled, find all of the ones that are unread, and create a list for me that automatically tells me everything that I need to respond to that day. It may not get it 100% accurate the first time, but tweaking it and continuing to refine your AI agent, you can get it so that it automatically knows exactly who it should be avoiding emails from, who it should be getting emails from, and compiling lists. If you do this every single day, you would get in your inbox from the end of the previous day to the beginning of your next work day, a list of everything you need to get done, who you need to reply to, and what it's regarding. So in our case, we're just going to change the source of the prompt to defined below, and we're going to say take all Gmails received, create a list of all the people to respond to, a description of their email, and the main action item I need to do. That's all I have to say. So what it will do is it'll take all the Gmails received, create a list of all the people to respond to, a description of their email, and the main action item I need to do. And then we can add any options here, like how many times it should do that, or if it should return any immediate steps. So let's say, for instance, that I want to make sure that it's only returning emails that I haven't read. I can click back in the get many messages here and add a filter, and we'll say read status, unread emails only. We could also include read emails only or unread and read emails only, and add more filters on, like include spam and trash and yes, for instance. In our case, we don't want that. And as you can see here, it really starts to come together, because instead of it just being one consistent path, we can see that we build out a full spider web here of AI agents working together simultaneously to create one automated path here. Creating the best AI agent doesn't mean just having a million different AI agents that work independent of one another. Rather, it's about creating one synchronous workflow where multiple AI agents are working together to create one simplified workflow. What does that mean? High efficiency for you and whatever it is you may be doing with your AI agents. And because of N8N's capabilities, not only do you have the ability to actually connect one main chat model, just like having ChatGPT for everything, but you can actually have different agents work to their specialties. Let's say, for instance, that I want to have a script writer write a script. Well, in my same workflow, I can have OpenAI have one AI agent, and I could have Google Gemini have another agent, and I could tweak each of them to their own specialty. So let's say, for instance, that the AI agent that pulls all of the messages from Gmail is OpenAI, but the AI agent that's going to go ahead and create that task list is going to be DeepSeek, or is going to be Grok. For instance, we could just say AI Grok module, set up our credentials, add our options, etc. here, and then we add our memory, simple memory, as we did previously, tool, etc. And now what we have is a full workflow that really starts to make sense. I'm just going to move this around, and is totally customizable. So as you can see here, it's really easy for me to visualize this because I can simply drag things around. Instead of just having one static interface for my automations, I can adjust it to make it look like the way I'm actually planning it. It's also very easy to go and see our executions here, because as we can see when it succeeded and when it had an error. And if we go back to the editor here, we can see that it's very easy to make tweaks and adjustments on the fly without actually impacting our running AI. So we can also add things like action in an app, data transformation, flow, core, or human in a loop. So let's say at this stage, I want to make it so that it stops. So once this runs, I then want it to send a Discord message automatically to one of my servers with the list of tasks for the day. So yeah, it's very easy. We've just created a full workflow where it's going and automatically scanning my whole inbox, giving me a list of tasks I need to do for the day. All I need to do here is connect it to my Discord, and then I can make it send a message automatically here. So right now it's create a channel, but if I go and click and change this from, create a channel to send and wait for a response, we can just say send. So we're just going to say send to a particular server and a particular channel. Now we can see that the whole workflow really is starting to come together from start to finish. It has a scheduled trigger where multiple AI agents are working independent of one another, but together, independently together. And that's why it works so well, to actually go ahead, get all my tasks from my unread emails, create a list that makes sense, and compile that all, send it to Discord so that I can see it every day. This workflow by itself would automatically save me all the time and energy from going and thinking about every single email and every single task I have to do that day. And it could either send me a message in Discord, but I could make it add it to whatever list software I'm doing, whether it's Notion, whether it's ClickUp, whether it's Trello, whether it's Asana, doesn't matter. Because I'm putting the tools that I use together and creating that information highway with AI agents, it's saving me, the human, the manual time of having to go read and interpret all these things. Instead, I can just get all the information I need, bite-sized or at length, depending on what I customize it, as a simple cause and effect of creating an AI agent. And the best part about all of this was the complex side of things. But there are so many templates that are available to you. If we go down to the templates section here, we can see that there are hundreds of automatically set up workflows. We could back up all N8N workflows to Google Drive every 4 hours. We could scrape any web page data into structured JSON data with Scrape Ninja and AI. We can filter it so that there's sales, scrape recent news about a company before a call, create Salesforce accounts based on Google Sheets data, Gmail campaign sender, bulk send emails and follow up automatically if no replies, OpenAI GPT-3, company enrichment from website content. There is so much here. If I click on this one that says lead generation system, Google Maps to email scraper with Google Sheets export, I click on it here and say use for free or preview, I can actually see the whole process of how it works. You can see here that this person has their steps all listed out. When they click it, it scrapes Google Maps, gets the URLs, filters them, removes duplicates, loops over them, scrapes and spit out. And now we have all information and all those emails put into a Google Sheet for the specifics of what they actually put in. And there are hundreds and hundreds of these templates that you could find automatically on N8N and customize to make them your own. This whole process is really about automating you, making sure that you as a human don't have to spend time on tasks that can be done by an AI agent. And hopefully, with this basic introduction to N8N, you will have a better idea on how to actually use it to create full workflows for yourself. So with that being said, albeit a bit daunting at first, N8N proves to be the most customizable AI agent maker on the market. The automations you can create here are insane, and the time that you can save is even more insane. So with that being said, I can't wait to see what types of AI agents and automations you create. As always, my name is Josh Mountain. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.